So many of you might remember Legacy of the First Blade Episode 2, the second part of the expansion for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, found itself in a spot of controversy. I have a cold, I apologise for my silly voice. If you aren't aware, allow me to explain. Obviously a spoiler warning for these DLCs goes without saying. So essentially at the end of the second part of the DLC, the game forces us into a heterosexual relationship with Darius's child, whose sex is the opposite to the player character's choice, whether they choose Alexios or Cassandra. So if they chose Alexios, Darius's child would be female, or if they chose Cassandra, Darius's child would be male. And the reason why they do this is because the protagonist, whether that be Cassandra and Alexios, and Darius's child, whether that be Natakas or Nima, have a child. The issue here being that we weren't given a choice on the matter, and we did have many options to make our character homosexual beforehand. However, we're forced out of that in this DLC. And I understand why people were mad, but I wasn't too mad at it because I was well aware that this game gave the illusion of choice as opposed to actual choices well before this DLC, but this DLC blatantly spilled the beans on that one. And since people were pointing out that this blatantly contradicted one of the main selling points of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'd say it became a bigger controversy than it was worth. However, Ubisoft decided that they would alter the DLC. Like with an alternate ending? Nope, they didn't do that. What do you think that they did? They changed one dialogue option. Yeah, that's about it. Now, there may be minor differences, but everything sort of plays out more or less the same. Except this dialogue changed, not the romance dialogue, but the dialogue below it that said, I chose this life to have a family. Now instead it says, I chose this life to secure the bloodline. You're probably wondering, why do I find that so funny? Oh yeah, because players still don't get a choice. So if you choose that dialogue option to preserve your character as homosexual, at the same time your character has to become an arsehole. Think about it, that's an arsehole thing to do, to have sex with somebody to produce children without having any attraction to them whatsoever. When you're drunk it could be a different scenario. But I have it on good authority that nobody in this instance was drunk. So if you think about it, you might be able to preserve your character as homosexual, but you will not be able to preserve your character as a good person at the same time. And all the while, no matter what you do, you have to have a child with Darius's child in this game. So if you think about it, nothing has actually been fixed. Ubisoft have just changed it slightly to make it less obvious that this game doesn't actually give you much choice. Now, on the whole, I wouldn't imagine this in itself is a big issue. However, it does reflect almost the entirety of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the change in the low effort that actually went into these choices to begin with, and the fact that the game gives you nothing more than the illusion of choice most of the time. Now, there are some points where it does actually give you a choice and it affects things minorly, but on the whole, Assassin's Creed Odyssey doesn't really give you any choices that affect anything. Take it this way, the main story, the ending is essentially the same except more characters die if you make worse decisions, but the ending itself ends with the exact same cutscene. And the only real knock-on effect of certain characters dying is the fact that they won't be eligible to be lieutenants on your ship. So while the outcomes aren't the same, they're just different variations of the same outcome. Whereas in games like The Witcher 3, decisions actually provide different outcomes entirely. Spoiler warning for The Witcher 3 here, but I'm about to use an example. The example I'm going to use is at the end of the side quest with Keira Metz, you have the decision to send Keira Metz to Kaer Morhen or leave her to go her way after she uses you to get access to this island. Of course, there is also a third option which allows for you to kill her. If you send her to Kaer Morhen, she will be helpful in that fight when the Wild Hunt attack Kaer Morhen later in the game. But if you leave her to go her own way, she will wind up attempting to parley with Radovid. If you do this, you will find her body impaled on a spike in the city of Novigrad. So there are three outcomes in that scenario, whereas in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, every decision just gives variations of outcomes. Barring 1 or 2 points where there are actual different outcomes, for example, with Stentor, if you spared Nikolaus, Stentor will still believe you killed him, but before he attempts to kill you and you're forced to kill him, Nikolaus will actually show up and stop you, saving Stentor's life later on, though it makes literally no difference after the fact. What I'm trying to say is Assassin's Creed Odyssey has done a lazy job of actually giving you decisions. That is no secret, and this one little blip is nothing major to me. However, if you were giving them stick before they fixed this, then by all means continue, because that quote-unquote fix actually fixes nothing. I still can't get over that. Who thought that'll fix it? Yeah. As for the protagonist in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, whether that be Alexios or Cassandra having a canon baby, that is not too much of a thing to worry about. They want to continue that bloodline so that you can have super powered characters in the future. I understand that. It makes no sense as that Isu DNA will be diluted down the line anyway, but I can respect that they have an idea for where they want to go with something for once. It's just a shame that they decided that Assassin's Creed Odyssey would not have a strict direct narrative and would be very open-ended to tailor to the player's choosing, because the narrative they want to go for actually affects the player's choice of their character's attributes, for example their sexuality. So honestly I feel bad for Ubisoft on this one. It's a hole that they've completely dug themselves in, but I still feel bad for them. But anyways, maybe we'll see more differences in Legacy of the First Blade Episode 3, which is only a few days away actually as of recording this video, which I can imagine being a super fun stream. Whether or not the DLC is any good or any bad, it doesn't really matter. We always have a good time when streaming Assassin's Creed really, provided the chat isn't too much cancer. And I do look forward to seeing how this DLC saga ends, and at the same time I look forward to reviewing the DLC in its entirety afterwards. Anyways, more on that when it comes to it. So thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. I'd really appreciate it. I know I'm a few days late to this one, but I do apologise. Before we go, I just want to say that if you're feeling generous and wish to pledge over on Patreon to support the channel, I'd really appreciate it, and at the same time, you will get benefits out of that as well. If not, that's cool as well, but it is just there for people who want to. Regardless, I'll see you all very soon with another video at some point.